let's talk about leadership from the front. Mike Tomlin, he just had his press conference at noon where he led it off with talking about the decision to move on from Matt Canada. Basically said didn't get better quick enough. And he also said that he doesn't like putting blame on somebody else as the head football coach. Kind of feels like it's a coward move, kind of is how he was talking. I feel like I should absolve all the blame whenever we're not doing well. Steelers fire a head coach or a coordinator for the first time since 1941. Do you think this is the right move? And do you think this is potentially Mike Tomlin saying, all right, we got to figure out if this is Kenny Pickett or if this has been the offense as a whole before we go further as a football program?
Yeah, so it's the right move. It's the necessary move. And that's not like we all understand firing people isn't fun. The reality is if I don't, produce for ESPN, they're going to fire me too. So that's just the nature. We all know that getting into the real world, that's part of it. So, but it was the necessary move. Wow. There's too many instances where this offense, and you guys have had me layer out the predictability, the lack of explosion, the never creating an advantage. Like there's so many flaws within this scheme. Okay. So at some point you have to sit there and say, are we helping the players or not? I think that's what it really comes down to. Were they ever creating an advantage for the players? More often than not, that answer was no. So you have to move on. I think this is a little bit of, hey, Kenny Pickett, and if you were going to ask me, like, what's the one thing that Kenny Pickett has to do now? Kenny Pickett is going to have to, in however many games they have left, I think 6, he's 7, he's going to have to prove that he is willing and able to throw the ball past 5 yards down the field well. That's been the question mark really ever since he became their guy. Now, is that all on him?
That's a tough
question.
That's a tough question. Hey, NFL quarterback, can you throw the ball 5 yards down the field or not?
Yeah,
5.
But
there's
that's
100
not
of them.
all on him because he wasn't asked to do it like much or with an advantageous situation.
Got it, okay.
Like I put out this tweet of like what's going to be needed now for the offensive coordinators. Okay, yeah. So like first of all, way too many I'm throwing this route, but you're running this route situations for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So their new offensive coordinator, I actually played for Mike Sullivan, who I think is going to be calling their plays.
Yep.
So like they got to get that right away. And it's not just a Deontay Johnson thing. It's all of those guys got to get on the same page. Number two, I said this the other day at the end of the Cleveland game. George Pickens doesn't get a throw. So they got to build some plays for George to get involved into their pass game. Tie things together, formation plays. So often they would just run a play. And then in the third quarter, they would like get into that same formation and there wouldn't be a counter to that play. So often like when you get into a formation, there should be 4 or 5 different plays off of that formation. When you get into a set, there should be 3 or 4 or 5. So you're forcing the defense to think a little bit. I think I can't count the amount of times that they ran a play action off of some of their runs because they've run the ball with those 2 runs relatively well. Their screen game stinks. So I do think that there are areas that they can improve on to help everybody on their offense play better.
You're talking about the predictability of it. So is Najee Harris. Whenever you run this formation and you're only running one play out of it, it gets
one play, dude.
When there's guys like Darius J. Butler on the other side who have massive brains and are studying, and it's like, okay, when they get in this, it's just this. Normally there's like 3 different options, 4 different options potentially coming. Right?
Yeah, like you said, when you break it down film, you're looking at cut-ups and you get, certain personnels or formations, and it's the same thing. Like you said, you need at least 4 or 5. You need some options. You need the same action. So if you're running inside zone, you need the same play action off of that inside zone look, so that you see, all the clips every week. Guys getting sucked up on the second level. Hey-o. They're not gonna get sucked up.
Yeah, nobody's getting sucked up with the Pittsburgh offense.
We weren't sucking.
You guys weren't sucking anybody up with the way you guys were running your offense.
The week goes,
especially in week 11.
How the week goes.
Matt Canada wasn't sucking anybody up with that offense.
Mouth sewn
That all
shut.
seems like such a natural, easy.
Grow up.
Dan, Daniel, talking football.
Dan.
Grow up, dude.
Dan,
Good, Dan?
What's up, bud?
we're on TV. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's
Keep it together.
I'm a kid, dude. I'm a child. What do you want me to tell you, dude?
Yeah, you have a lot of kids too. You did great in that.
Good work, Dan.
But doesn't that seem like malpractice though? Like, And you think like Mike Tomlin was thinking to himself, we just keep winning. This guy sucks. Like we can't fire him. We're 6-4 right now. Like do you wait for the Browns game? All right. There was an L. Everything was bad. We can move on. We can finally make this decision. Or how do you think he got here at this exact moment? Why now, as opposed to maybe any of the weeks of the past where these same exact things were being said about Matt Canada's offense for like 2-3 years now.
Yeah, when you're throwing away a season, and that's part of, like, again, that goes back to the initial statement. When everybody knows what is the problem with your football team, then as the coach, you have to sit there and say, okay, I have a defense that plays their absolute tails off and gives everything they have every week. And they go into every game knowing that we're not trying to win the game on offense. I think I said this yesterday. Like, there's no way that you could watch that offense play and say they're trying to win the game. They're just strictly saying, hopefully we don't lose it. And as a coach, you can't look at your defensive players in the eye any longer and say, hey, we're going to do what's best for the football team. No, we're not. We're not doing what's best. If you continue to roll out this offensive coordinator, and this isn't like a personal shot at them, players, you guys know, like, we're not doing what's best for the football team because we're not trying to score points. And so I think I don't know why Mike Tomlin held on to him as long as he did. I don't have that answer, but I know at some point you just become to an indisputable place where the move has to be made.
Yeah, and I think it's loyalty and just the way Tomlin has done it. Once again, first move like this in the Steelers franchise since 1941. It's just not something that happens in Pittsburgh, and that's why Steelers fans, I think, we're just expecting to ride out Matt Canada for the rest of this year.
There's pressure on Kenny Pickett now, though, Pat.
Oh,
like, there is, man.
Yeah.